All right, good morning, nation. Welcome to the 23rd episode of Compass Coffee Talk. So happy to have our natural and organic and hemp products community today join us with a focus on hemp. This is an episode that we've dedicated in the run up to the upcoming 8th annual NoCo Hemp Expo. Yours truly, my name is Stephen Hoffman. Welcome. I'm very happy to actually work with one of our guests, Beegle, on that NoCo Hemp Expo and also on an industry newsletter called Let's Talk Hemp. You can find more about that at nocohempexpo.com, letstalkhemp.com. And we cover everything in the hemp industry, and we have a really great panel of guests here that are going to talk about everything from seed to shelf with hemp, from fiber and clothing to building materials, to animal feed, to human nutrition and medicine, all derived from the hemp plant. Happy to have my co-host with me today, Bill Capsalis.
Morning.
There he is, outstanding in his field. I've used that pun many times, sorry, but there you are. I have to use it again. So welcome again, everyone, as you come in the door to Compass Coffee Talk. I want to thank our sponsors while you're coming in, and that is one of the leading natural products brokers in the nation, Presence Marketing. We're also thrilled to work with some natural networks that support entrepreneurship in natural products. That's Naturally Boulder, of which my friend and colleague Bill Capsalis serves as executive director. Also Naturally San Diego. And then we also have the Independent Natural Food Retail Association, INFRA, as a sponsor. We're very grateful. And also Genius Food, which is a probiotic gut loving bread, which delivers a lot of health benefits. Look for them at Sprouts Farmers Market stores this summer. We're very happy to have you join us. I'm just going to introduce our guests very briefly. They can talk a little bit more about themselves. We've got to fit a lot in this month's episode. Again, Morris Beegle, my colleague, my friend, serial entrepreneur, formerly a producer in the music industry, but he got involved 10 years ago. I believe Colorado Hemp Company is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And 8 years ago, started producing the NoCo Hemp Expo. But Morris also not only serves the hemp industry, but he also runs tree-free hemp paper, which hemp paper is coming on as a renewable resource. It grows a lot faster than trees. He also makes Silver Mountain hemp guitars. You don't happen to have one of those handy to show us, do you, Morris? Which is as we go from insulation in BMWs to, very functional industrial to that, which is made from hemp wood and rocks. So there, and hemp picks as well, made from biocomposite plastic, right? We also have Saba Tesfay, uniquely from a mix of European and Ethiopian, correct? I believe is your kind of heritage. We're very happy to have you join us. Your expertise is involved in carbon sequestration, consulting, using hemp to help with regeneration. You work a lot in hemp building and in education. You're the former vice president of the U.S. Hemp Building Association, and now involved a lot in education. And Saba, I believe you have some show and tell too. You have some like prefab hemp building. Once you raise that, I know you'll talk a little bit about that more, but these are fire resistant structures, something that can really replace concrete, which is getting more expensive. So again, hemp as a solution there. Saba will tell us more about it. We're very honored as well to also host Colorado Commissioner of Agriculture, Kate Greenberg. Kate, welcome. You were appointed the first female commissioner of agriculture for the state of Colorado in 2018 with Governor Polis's administration. Prior to that, you were the Western Program Director for the Young Farmers Coalition. I'm guessing, but you'll tell us more, you really were raised on farms. Is that correct? It seems like you have quite a dedication to advancing agriculture in the West through your whole career.
That's been true, Stephen, and raised in rural Minnesota, part-time in the city. And I think that's a lot of what we do at Ag, is try and connect the two. So glad to be here today.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I think that's really important. Actually, part of my work as an extension agent, an agricultural extension agent with Penn State University, was in the city of Philadelphia, putting in food gardens in the city. So linking agriculture, farmers markets, and the urban community, I think, is really important. So thank you for that work. That's our introductions. It's a fair amount. So I'm going to let Bill Capsalis lead us into some of the questions that we want to ask. And by the way, all three guests we have today are going to be speakers at the upcoming NoCo Hemp Expo next week at the Gaylord Resort. So again, make sure you check that out at NoCoHempExpo.com. Bill, you want to take us into our conversation today?
Sounds great, Steve. Thanks. Great to see all you guys. Thanks for joining us today out there in digital world, everyone. So we'll start with Kate. And Kate, we're just really curious about your role as the Colorado Commissioner of Agriculture. So just, can you touch on what your priorities look like these days? I know how long have you been in the role now? A little over a year and a half, maybe?
Oh, this is actually year 4. So it's been a little over 3 years.
Sorry.
Yeah. But 2 of that was the pandemic, which changed time a little bit.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that. So Colorado Department of Agriculture, we're about 300 staff all across the state. We're headquartered in Broomfield, but more than half of our staff are all across Colorado, whether that's our brand inspectors out in the field, our weights and measures teams, tearing scales. If you go to the grocery store, you'll see our sticker on the scale at checkout. So we do a lot of consumer protection, making sure consumers get what they pay for. We do that all over the place. Marketing as well. We've got a great marketing division that promotes and sells Colorado products at home and abroad. You might see the Colorado Proud logo. That's our branding to really expand sort of the recognition around Colorado ag. That's just a minor cross section of the dozens of programs we have here. But from a 30,000 foot view, the Colorado Department of Ag is here to advance agriculture, to protect consumers, and foster stewardship of the natural world. And so we advance that mission through all sorts of different services, programs, and support we provide to the ag community. So the top 3 goals that we're focused on, and I'll touch base quickly on how hemp fits in too. Our first goal right now, and this isn't in any particular order, is to advance supply chain and economic resilience. Obviously, we've seen the challenges over the last 2 years, but we, even before the pandemic, knew we needed to diversify marketing opportunities for our producers. So that's something we're keenly focused on. The second one is advancing voluntary stewardship. So we think about that in terms of soil, water, climate, and the role that ag can play in advancing that work for us as a state. Ag, in my mind and our mind as a department, is essential to the work we have to do on climate. And we have immense opportunity as leaders to show what we can do, melding ag production with conservation stewardship. And then lastly, we're focused on drawing in the next generation. So that might be, our STEM program that we launched at our labs, bringing in middle schoolers and high schoolers to learn about the science of ag, might be our paid apprenticeship program out in the field, or our emerging loan program for beginning farmers and ranchers to get finance with us. All of those are goals that we're driving forward, and hemp certainly plays a role in each of them.
Yeah, it's a big darn job you have. When you think about hemp in particular right now, have you seen the acreage increasing, decreasing, staying about the same? Do you monitor that sort of acreage, and what are your tools in place to keep that forefront? Like, how do you know what's going on in the industry?
Yeah, well, our main tool is registrations, right? So everybody who's producing hemp needs to, whether indoor or outdoor, needs to register with us. That's been true since pre-2018, when we had our sort of our research program, if you will, that we've been operating for many years. Now, post 2018 Farm Bill, that's still true. Of course, 2019, after Farm Bill was signed and went into effect, I think what we all saw was a big spike and then a big fall within the same season. I think there was a lot of excitement around hemp production, but we didn't have a mature market or markets, and we didn't have a final regulatory framework. Even though the Farm Bill was signed, legalizing hemp across the country, the USDA still took 2 years to finalize its rules, which means we had to adjust as a state to that as well. So I think now that the USDA has issued final rules, we have adjusted our state program to meet those terms of the federal government. We also did a lot of work with the USDA to get those final rules to a place we could live with. Now that we're there, the regulatory environment has somewhat stabilized. There's still a lot of questions out there in certain aspects, but the uncertainty of 2019, 2020, even 21 has really settled down as we're moving into more stability.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, Colorado has emerged also as, and interestingly, you mentioned, the research license. I think that was from 2014 on. So that's how we got a bit of a head start in the hemp industry. And we have some leading CBD brands out there as well. And I think, that some of those companies have been hit as well through the pandemic. So we're hoping that we, things start stabilizing. We see a resurgence and growth going forward.
Yep. Agreed, Stephen.
Thanks, Kate. Saba, let's talk a little bit about what you're involved in. You have all kinds of things going on, education, advocacy. Let's kind of take
Yeah, and Bill, I had forgot to mention Saba's role as Director of Operations for the ACE Corporation. Right. So we want to make sure she talks about that. That's involved with Carbon Conscious Consulting, right?
Yeah, interesting. Yes. Yeah. So let's hear a little bit about what's getting you excited today, and that those building materials you had. They're kind of small. Yeah. They might come through, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's this is a 12, it's just a smaller prototype. It's from one of the U.S. Hemp Building Association's members, Homeland Hempcrete, and so they're building prefabricated panels. As we know, the world of hemp is just so broad, so there's so many things to get excited on, and in terms of sustainable development and environmental solutions, there's just so many answers within hemp. So yeah, coming from the U.S. Hemp Building Association, really advocated and organized to bring about greater education regarding hemp building. So this is the types of things that we're encouraging as a member-based organization to see the market grow. And with that, prefabrication is a necessary part of it because for it to scale. So we're really looking forward to the industry of hemp building scaling within the next few years. I mean, there's still a long way to go in terms of processing, but we know that a lot more are coming online this year and next year. So we're really excited about that. And then with ACE Corp, we're going down, which stands for Acquisition of Carbon Emissions. We are going down the carbon credit route and carbon voluntary market using drones. So it's advanced agricultural technology where drones are used for seeding, spraying, and surveying. And that's not only for carbon credits, also just for crop insurance or, plant counts. How is the crop doing health-wise with pests and that type of thing. So there's just a huge market overall. Sorry about that, in all the different areas. And then of course, we have the hemp bioplastics. So this is hemp straws, and so I'm involved in a few different ways, but Carbon Conscious Consulting is really just trying to provide resources and education to businesses and consumers across the board. So there's always so much to do.
On the prefab, I'm just really curious about supply chain issues. That seems like it would take a lot of material, right? So how do you keep that rolling? Is there a supply chain challenge for you with that kind of building material?
Yeah, so in general, whether it's panels or blocks or just cast in place, which is, more custom model homes or spray applications. Supply chain has definitely been an issue. I mean, up until recently, majority of buildings that were built within the US are have the herd imported from places like France. However, now, like I said, with processing coming online, there's a lot more regional growing happening where people are really, setting up their businesses based on these larger facilities, whether that's in Montana or in Texas. In Colorado, a new facility or a new decorticator that also does fiber just came online. So yeah, it's definitely a process, but I know that collectively and within our smaller groups, a lot of people are brainstorming and working with, different investors and corporate partners that are, with the climate angle and with carbon sequestration and just the solutions across the board. It's inevitable. So we're all trying to make it happen and address the supply chain issues through processing, really.
Saba, you brought up some thoughts for me. It's interesting. I think people may not realize that there are, of course, lots of different varieties of hemp, but hemp grown for fiber or the bast or the hurd to make insulation, building materials, clothing. That's going to be a very tall plant planted very closely together, very few leaves. And then those that are growing it for CBD actually are growing it almost like a specialty vegetable crop, lots of spacing for the flower itself. So there are different ways cultivators are approaching hemp. And then what I thought was interesting, Kate, as you are promoting STEM for the next generation of agricultural leaders, it's really interesting to me about using drone technology to monitor microclimates. So what young person wouldn't want to pilot a drone over a field of hemp that Bill is standing in front of, right? So that's where all this interconnects. And even I know Morris and NoCo Hemp Expo is offering an ag symposium, but also an agriculture technology forum as well to start talking about this emerging technology in, agriculture and in particular hemp agriculture.
Yeah, that's a good lead into Morris. Morris, can you just give us a little high level on the NoCo Hemp Expo itself, and then in your role as a publisher of that NoCo, I'm sorry, the Let's Talk Hemp newsletter that Steve helps you with. There's a lot of information in there, a lot of engagement with leaders in the industry. How does the publication and the conference itself kind of dovetail, and what's sort of top of mind for you with both of those things right now in terms of the hemp industry?
Well, so NoCo is going into its 8th year. We started in 2014. It should be going into its 9th year, but unfortunately 2020 was a do-over and 2021 wasn't much of a do-over.
Like what Kate said, it bent time a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like a time warp. Yeah.
We did pull off NoCo last year at the National Western Complex, but it was a challenging feat to do that with masks and distancing and wide aisles and single-way traffic. But NoCo works in conjunction with Let's Talk Hemp. Let's Talk Hemp was born in 2015 as really the programming arm of NoCo. So bringing in all these different specialized folks, whether that's the fiber folks or the grain folks or the textile folks, or then the emerging CBD folks and geneticists and, all across the supply chain, putting together the panels and the keynotes was really the function of Let's Talk Hemp, which then emerged into more of a platform of news and education and what it is now. And it's a media platform. So, and it works hand in hand with NoCo and Southern Hemp Expo and other events. It's similar to what New Hope does with their, they've got a media division, and most large trade shows have kind of their media platform. And that's what Let's Talk Hemp is to NoCo. And we featured lots of entrepreneurs and business owners and what's going on in the industry, not only here in Colorado, but throughout the country and throughout the world. We curate information from other sources. Hemp Today is one that we utilize a lot. They do a great job on the global level. Hemp Growers, another organization that puts out some good content that we like to put out there. But as far as NoCo goes now, we've seen the industry have this bubble. When I got into it, it was really about industrial hemp. It was fiber and textiles and building materials and bioplastics and carbon sequestration and all the cool things that the plant could do for the earth and for human health and animal health. And then all of a sudden here comes CBD and cannabinoids that really dominated the conversation, and the investment side of things and processing for extraction, and the industrial side really kind of got put aside here in the United States, and has not developed and matured like we would have liked to seen it happen. And I think that is changing now. There was a CBD bubble. As Kate mentioned, 2019, all of a sudden, things are legal. The Farm Bill signed by Trump. USDA is going to start regulating things. And it did take a couple years for that to all shake out. But all of a sudden, we have this huge oversupply, and here's the CBD market basically crashing as far as pricing goes. And the pandemic certainly didn't help the situation with these CBD companies. Everybody was stuck in their houses and not able to go out to trade shows and really do business face to face. And here we are in 2022 with an industry that's pretty distressed right now. But there is a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for what's going to happen going forward. And that is driven by the building side of things. There's been a lot of advancement in that. Fiber applications, carbon sequestration, carbon credits, protein. As you probably saw at Expo West, there's a huge demand for plant-based protein. Hemp's going to play into that. Yeah. And then the animal feed market, which hemp is a perfect input into the animal feed market. And this is from a regulatory standpoint that isn't squared away. And that's the FDA has to approve this as an animal feed, but yet it's approved as human food. It's generally recognized as safe. It's grass, but yet there's this pushback on animal feed right now, which is costing farmers 20% of their grain crop because it can't go into anything. It's not usable for human consumption. So we really have to work on the FDA and get this animal feed thing accepted for hemp grain. So that's going to be a big topic of conversation at NoCo, the building side of things, building out the hemp processing for fiber and for herd. And that's where that's the high level focus of NoCo this year, is really building out the supply chain to take industrial hemp to the industrial scale over the course of the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Excellent. Kate, I have to ask you, where's the intersection between that animal feed and the work that you do at the ag department? Do you guys focus on that at all?
Yeah, it's one of the sort of many other areas, just like Morris mentioned, that has yet to sort of be finalized in terms of the regulatory framework or environment that it's operating in. So it's something we're tracking, especially with sort of the what's going on nationally across states and federally as well. We certainly see promise there. I think, again, as Morris was mentioning, it's really with the FDA. Our focus from a regulatory standpoint is to make sure we're not moving too quickly before understanding what the regulatory framework is going to be, and ensuring the health and safety of consumers as well as our livestock industry here in Colorado, which is our leading industry in ag in the state. But with that, we're certainly interested in seeing where this can go. I mentioned early on that one of our main goals is market diversification overall for ag, but that's very true for hemp as well. I think, what we saw in 2019, I mentioned it wasn't a mature industry yet, whether on the regulatory side or market side. Where we are now, there is just a lot more potential for diversification and growth. So we've got kind of the pulse on all kinds of new markets for hemp. We're not just regulators, we also have that marketing branch and try and open up new marketing channels. And so we'll see what happens on the federal level, but it's certainly something we're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and Saba, do you get involved at all in regulatory issues related to building? Are there any that I should know about that I don't know about?
Yeah, well, building codes is another bottleneck for hemp construction. So up until now, it's been on a local level where you have to meet with your local officials and kind of basically convince them, get an engineer and a contractor that's willing to work on hemp-based product construction. However, through the U.S. Hemp Building Association, there was a submission to the ICC, which is the International Code Council, which is actually national for the U.S. to have hemp be accepted as a building material. With that, it's an entire process. Right now, we're going through the phase in which the documentation that was submitted needs to be defended, and it's arranged so that it can hopefully serve the greater market, and it's not just one specific product that we're getting certified through ASTM testing standards and that type of thing. So it's our goal to of course we want to open up the floodgates in regards to accessibility, but we do know that there still will be local education needed, even if it is accepted by the ICC. So that's the process that we've been going through now, and it will take about another, at least till the end of the year, to see if that's been accepted.
Wow. Steve and I, we live in the Boulder area, and we had that massive fire just outside of town here, 1,000 homes lost. And I had heard some people wanted to get, reconstructed with hemp materials, but it sounds like maybe there's a process they have to go through and find a builder and find the materials. And it just seems overly complicated for someone who wants to rebuild their house. I wish.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Colorado, it's a lot easier than in most other places. There's a lot of builders, and the material is more readily available there. However, like in a lot of these greater industries, financing is an issue. And again, getting the material grown and processed in that whole path. But I also did hear talks on that. So we'll see if that will be done. I mean, as a whole, hemp just obviously, like, if you don't know, and I meant to say this in the beginning, just diving into hemp building and the codes and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure the audience in terms of their basic level education of hemp. But there's the fiber varieties, and then there's the grain, and then there's the cannabinoids, which we talked about. So yeah, so with the hemp and the lime in building materials, that's what makes it fire resistant. So not only in Colorado, but what we saw in California last year, and as a whole, we're expecting a lot more of that type of weather, natural disasters, and those types of things. But yeah, if you are new to hemp, NoCo Hemp Expo truly is the place to be for education on every level. It's just the innovation. I'm really looking forward to this year because we're waiting on a few things. Hemp lime, as we call it, or hempcrete as it's known, is not a structural material. It's an insulative material. But again, in terms of innovation, the industry is growing so fast. So we're definitely looking for, the next best thing. Yeah.
And we'll see that probably at the expo at some of the tables and booths there, I'm sure, Morris. Steve, we're pushing up on a half hour. My goodness, how time flies. Guessing you have a couple thoughts you'd like to share, and then when we get some final closing thoughts from our panel.
Well, Saba, you said something interesting. It's the grain, it's the flour, it's the fiber and the stalk. And that's what's interesting about the hemp plant. It can be used, every aspect of it can be used. And I remember natural foods industry in the late 90s, when hemp seed was first being introduced. There were major natural food retailers who were afraid to take it in for fear of, being under the gun from such agencies as the DEA. Today, it's considered a superfood. It's a complete protein. It's high in essential fatty acids. So for human nutrition, it's a superfood. And, animal feed, Morris, we know now the state of Montana is the first to make it legal as animal feed. Kate, anything we can do to help in Colorado, we'd be very pleased, because this is absolutely a great solution for protein and essential fats for a livestock feed, we feel. And then I also wanted to touch base on, so there's always regulatory headwinds when a new industry, and in particular a controversial plant, is coming on. So when I mentioned that, natural food retailers were nervous about carrying it 20 years ago, today you'll find it everywhere. It's a superfood. We're still facing FDA needing to allow animal feed, and also we need everyone to lobby with and advocate for FDA allowing the treatment of CBD as a dietary supplement. They are hindering the growth of that market and thus hindering the advancement of hemp as a crop in the United States. So these are just some thoughts I have. The other thought that Morris, you mentioned, and I know Saba, I don't know if you know anything, but particularly in hemp building, we are connected with world events. We actually had a keynote speaker, Sergei Kovalenkov, coming over from Ukraine, one of the world's experts in hemp building. I just want to make sure that we're sending out collectively as a community our prayers to him and his family. I don't believe he's going to be able to make it from Kyiv to Denver. Do you guys know anything more about this? And this is where world events absolutely are hitting home in our own hemp community.
I went back and forth with Sergey a few days ago, and all he said to me was that he's safe, his family's safe, and send prayers and good energy, and that's what I'm doing. And it's an unfortunate situation over there, and I wish Sergey and his family would come to Colorado. We'd be happy to take care of them here for as long as necessary. Certainly wishing the best for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah. Major supplier of a lot of food products.
Oh yeah.
I mean, #1 sesame in the world. That's crazy. So major disruption there. Well, Steve, maybe we should give some final thoughts from our
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to open it up for any final thoughts or comments that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with our audience.
Yeah, let's start with Kate, and then we'll go to Saba, and we'll give Morris the final word, and he can pitch the expo one more time.
Great. Well, I think we've touched on so much in a short amount of time. On the whole, if there was a takeaway on my end, I think that the future is bright. Of course, you mentioned Ukraine, and I just echo what's been said about our hearts being with the folks who are struggling so deeply over there. And the impact on agriculture is something we are monitoring. And I think it reemphasizes the importance of production here at home, as well as our alliances abroad. I'm just getting back from the UK on a mission. And I was mentioning earlier, I actually brought over as a gift a bottle opener made out of hemp wood from here in Colorado, and just the creativity that's coming out of the hemp industry, the support from our state, from our governor to advance this industry and have Colorado remain as a leader, and to make sure that our producers are benefiting, as well as our small businesses and processors, and the sort of dynamic and shifting field as we grow in hemp. I'm excited about what's ahead and hopeful as well.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for being with us. And you don't seem jet lagged at all. Saba,
Yeah.
Hey, Saba, there's a question in the Q&A that's real quick. Maybe you can address it. It's about the type of hemp that should be used for growing for concrete and wood versus clothing. And there's a question about whether, from the same person, about whether you should have a buyer lined up before you plant. Do you want to take that one? The strain of hemp or those types of materials?
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of genetics, I don't want to pitch any one specific types of genetics, but it definitely should be of the fiber variety. Okay. And that's like Steve mentioned earlier, planted very densely. So that's about 50 pounds per acre, something of that range. Having a buyer lined up is one thing, but more importantly, being close to a processor, that's going to be the main key. Is to, I think you'll be able to find a buyer if it's for herd, but you need to have that material processed. So that's where, again, it just goes back to hopefully getting more regional processing facilities up so that we can just encourage everybody to grow. And yeah, if you're interested, I would say, look more into U.S. Hemp Building Association, ushba.org, and you can connect with different experts there. In regards to my closing, my hemp clothing thoughts, not my closing. I just want to also send out, healing and protective energies to those in Ukraine, as that's a historically impactful hemp they're just very historically well known for hemp and the fibers and the studies thereof. And the gem that Sergey is, we hope that we get him out safe and that we can just see this industry soar as a whole. And pertaining to that globally and that perspective of hemp globally, you mentioned in the beginning I'm Ethiopian, and in Ethiopia right now, I'm actually Tigrayan, which is the northern region of Ethiopia. And there's a humanitarian crisis happening right now. And people are, starving. Like 500,000 people have already died from war and starvation related issues. And so I'm really hoping to see hemp be a solution in that regards as well. As we mentioned, a superfood. Hopefully we can get that as a part of aid, humanitarian aid. So hemp just really covers us as humanity as a whole. And it really, at the end of the day, it's in the soil. It starts with agriculture. It ends with agriculture, because if you're doing it right, it can go back into the soil. You know what I mean? Circular economies type of thing. So I'm just really thankful to be here with you all. And I really look forward to the future of hemp.
Great. Look forward to seeing you next week. Morris, we'll give you some final words here.
Well, first, thanks for having me on and having Saba and Kate on. It's great to speak with you two and hear your thoughts. And I'll see you both next week at NoCo, as well as Governor Polis will be speaking. We have over 125 speakers on 4 stages. We have 4 conferences. We have a business conference, an investment summit, a farm symposium, and an ag tech forum. Plus there's an education stage and in another room where we've got a Latin American breakout session, an indigenous peoples session, and then a global hemp update. So we've really got a lot going on, and we'll have a full expo hall, all kinds of new tech and innovation going on. It's just not all CBD and cannabinoids. So really excited about it. Folks can get tickets at nocohempexpo.com and see the entire schedule there. And I just look forward to seeing everybody out at NoCo and getting this industry back and rolling after the pandemic.
Sounds great. Thanks, Morris. Hey, Kate, real quick question. What's happening in Minnesota with hemp? There was a question in the Q&A.
Oh, in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't give away my home state secrets.
Okay. All right. We'll leave that for the next time. Maybe they can catch you at the NoCo and ask you that on the side. Well, Steve, I'll turn it back over to you for some closing comments, and then you can let everybody know what our next Coffee Talk guest is. And thanks everyone for your engagement today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Thanks for showing those coffee cups.
Cheers.
Kate, I'm thinking of a road trip up to Minnesota to see Winona LeDuc's farm. So I might learn some of those secrets along the way.
Winona's going to be at NoCo as well.
Yeah, we're very excited that Winona LeDuc, and I mean, what I want to say, Morris, is really, you putting this together. It's a bit building a city where everybody can gather. And what I'm going to say about the work that you do is really you're the mayor of the hemp industry. You're the Chamber of Commerce, and you bring the community together. So it's important work. It helps enhance trade and advance the industry. Kate, thank you very much for everything you're doing to advance agriculture, to advance leadership, to advance women leadership in agriculture and business. I'm honored to work with you in the state of Colorado. I actually was on Governor Polis's inaugural committee, so your name came up a lot in those days. Saba, thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you next week in Denver. And Bill, as always, my co-host, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody. Next month on April 20th during Earth Week, we're very excited to host Maria Rodale, the former chair of Rodale Press. Her grandfather, J.I. Rodale, actually coined the term organic agriculture. So we're very excited to bring Maria in and to talk about her work in organic and the legacy her family has created. And in May, we're very excited on May 18 to host David Bronner, who we all know with Dr. Bronner's a champion of natural products, a champion of hemp, and increasingly a champion of psychedelics and medicine.
Yeah.
And that's David's thing, but we're really excited to have him talk more about it in May. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. You'll be able to see these archives on our YouTube channel at Compass Natural. And we hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks so much.
Steve,
Thanks so much.
thanks
Cheers.
everyone.
So long, everybody.
All right.